My name is Brian Pillman Jr., and you're watching Dre 41 Gaming. Now, I'm a little partial to this gaming channel because 41 is my magic number. It was my number in football, and it was my father's football number. So you can bet that Brian Pillman Jr. is going to be tuning in to Dre 41 Gaming only on YouTube.
What's up, y'all? It is your boy Drake 41, aka Mr. 4K, aka Drake 41, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Podcast, where we have a special guest today. But before all that, shout outs to my co-host Sean Styles.
What's up, everybody? How are you doing?
All right, and as you can see on the screen, we have the former ECW champion, two-time ECW tag team champion with Lance Storm, time WWE Hardcore champion. The year 2000 PWI ranked you number 6.
Yes.
Top 500. And the guys before you, Jeff Jarrett, Kenta Kobashi, name redacted, we can't use it, The Rock and Triple H. And you've got Ric Flair beat, 18-time World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, that's crazy, actually. That was actually because I was such a mark for the PWI 500 as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
That actually meant, like, even though I know it's a work, that meant a lot to me. I was like, yes, I actually made it in the top 10. That was so cool as a fan,
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
You were doing a lot that year too. Like, I mean, you were in, like, top rivalries, man. It's like you got into ECW and they shot you to the moon. Like, man, that must have been a crazy time for you.
It was. I mean, things were going so good. So good for the business too. The business of pro wrestling was so strong. Just everything was just right. Everything was positive. I was in a great mindset. I was in, like, great physical condition, no injuries. I was working out. I was in great, physical shape. So everything was just working. And Paul Heyman, a lot of people were jumping to WCW and WWE at the time. So, him and I had a great working relationship, and he's like, I'm going to go with you, and let's do this. And right place, right time, as always happens in wrestling. So it was a great year.
And it wasn't like, like you were getting heat because people didn't believe that you should have been pushed. It was heat because you were a good heel, and people just really didn't like what you were doing in the ring, especially like interrupting, Tommy Dreamer. Interrupting Shane Douglas, like when he was going to retire. Like, man, they were using you so well. Like, what do you think that incorporated? Do you think, like, just Paul Heyman seen something like really big in your character?
I think so. I think a lot of it had to do with trust, because a lot of people were jumping ship, and I think Paul had to find someone that was true to ECW, and I certainly was. I was going to go down with the ship one way or another because they were so good to me. The money was actually really good. A lot of people assume that, it wasn't, but I was making more money with Paul Heyman than I was in WWE. And it was a great scenario. And I just rolled with it, man. I didn't ask too many questions. I just did what I was told and did it to the best of my ability. Because, we see that problem today a little bit. But back then it happened as well, where everybody wanted to be over, and a lot of people didn't want to be a true heel, because everybody wants to get the cheers, you want to sell t-shirts and stuff like that, where I was just trying to be a straight up heel and be booed. I was okay with that. That was the role I was told to play. So I was going to play it to the best of my ability. And, I made that commitment to just, the only person I see doing that today is like an MJF. He does that true heel thing. So, I just went with it. I did, the best job I could.
Okay. People often forget, like, without that heel, without that, antagonist, the baby face and the protagonist, they'll cease to exist, because you need that polar opposite. You need something for people to hate for them to get behind something that they want to believe in so strongly. And I think that was definitely, what was going on with you at that time. I think you fit that to a T.
And I think a lot of times it just, it's you just have to trust the person you're working with. Like Paul, I trusted Paul. Obviously, he's extremely smart. He knew what he was doing, and I just went with it. I was like, look, I'm on for the ride. So you know what I mean? We'll go from there.
Yeah. So me and Sean was having this discussion about if wrestling could be dissected into different genres to tell stories in different ways.
Yep.
Do you believe that there's only one way to tell stories, a story in the ring? Like as far as like, New Japan, they do King's Road or Strong Style, hardcore, lucha libre. Could these be considered as different genres that all can be entertaining and tell a story?
Oh, I think they all can. Sure, absolutely. I don't think there's any real limit to what you can do to tell a story. Wrestling is just getting more and more complex because I think more and more fans are educated in wrestling. I think that it's like before, fans were almost, they it was either WWE or WCW, and most chose one side. Now it's so worldly, it's so different with the internet and with the way things have opened up. We have access to global promotions that do it very differently. So it's just a matter of taste, really. I don't think one is more effective than the other. It's just a matter of what the fan particularly wants. Just like in a genre of like movies, do you like horror? Do you like action? Do you like, sci-fi? Whatever. It's no different than that.
Okay. All right. So with social media being used as a tool for wrestlers to get over, how do you think it would have been used in ECW era or like the Attitude Era? Do you think it would have been used because kayfabe was way bigger than what it is now? So I mean, like,
Right.
how do you think that would have worked if it would have worked?
I mean, it's interesting because I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it would have worked. It would just be a little different than we see it today, because I think today, kayfabe is all but gone, and everybody just kind of plays it straight online. I find it hard when you play it straight and you play it. There's no kayfabe, and then you decide that this storyline you're gonna do it and kind of try to work the gimmick. You either got to be all in or not all in. So I would say, like, if you were going to do it back in those days, is to just simply just roll with it. Like, you have to stay in character the whole time. You have to work that the whole time. It almost can't be your social media account. It has to be the wrestlers, that personality of yours account. So that could be tricky. Especially back then. I mean, even though kayfabe was starting to die then, it still existed a little bit. Which I'll tell you, the death of kayfabe really made wrestling harder, because even though we all knew wrestling was a work, even the fans knew it was a work, there was still questions. Now that literally everybody's telling the story of not only that it's a work, but how we did the work. More eyeballs are trying to, kind of read between the lines, which to me takes away the fun of just sitting back and enjoying it. Yeah. So I think it's just getting, what that has done for wrestlers is just made it a lot harder on themselves. Like, so to me, I think less is more. And I would just give less of my tricks out to the public than a lot of these young men and women are. It's like they're giving their whole bag away. Yeah. And it's like, kind of hold that back a little, because pretty soon everybody's going to kind of watch your stuff. And like, it's like watching a famous magician and knowing exactly how the tricks are done. Mm-hmm. We're the same thing. Everybody knows what we're doing is not real, but you don't want to know exactly how it's done. Yeah.
You still have the suspension of disbelief where you're like, that like might have been real. Like, that might have been, that might have not been a work. So, but now
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, if somebody's going to get color and you're looking for the blade and you're just focusing on that moment, it's like, it's just, I don't know. It just makes it, I would just like to, not just for me, like for me, when I watch it, I just like to watch it as a fan. Because if I'm going to sit there and watch it as a pro, it's like, I don't enjoy it at all. It's like, oh, they screwed that up. That could have been done better. They did this wrong. So I think fans need to just go in and just try to enjoy it for what it is, because they'll find that it's actually a lot more pleasant, a lot more, they will fucking actually like say, oh, that wasn't too bad. That was pretty good. I think we all try to look at it with a critical eye, and it's like, it is what it is. I mean, you can do whatever you want with the wrestlers put out the work, fans like it or they don't. But it's like if a band, my favorite band, puts out a piece of music and then I'm judging the music, it's like, who am I to judge the music? I don't know how to write a song, you know. And I think in wrestling we've gotten to that point where everybody's an expert all of a sudden, so it makes it harder for fans to just go out there and just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah,
you know.
So like going back to the kayfabe, you know, was it easier back in the day to just run with your character all the time, or was it harder because sometimes you just wanted to just go to the grocery store and you know and just be you and not have to be a character?
I never had a big problem with it. I was just always like, once I left the building, you know, it's like when I was in the, you know, in the confines of the building, and when I drove away from the arena, that's where I left work. So when I went home, I was just me. And you know, and when you go to your hometown, people usually know you for you.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even bother you with that stuff. So, you know, it was kind of chill, you know, and yeah, I just always left work at work. It was the best place for me. And it never really got too complicated. I don't know how it would be today, because today everything is just so micromanaged. I would imagine the young men and women that are doing it today probably have a harder time with it, because everything is so, you know, you could be out somewhere and like everybody has a camera on their phone and snapping pictures or videos. So it could be a lot more challenging, I would assume.
Okay. And even going back to utilizing social media, Just Incredible used social media.
Yeah, I mean, what is the only thing I would think of that really hasn't been, I mean, it has been used, but hasn't been really fully used, is that should be a continuation of storylines. And nobody has harnessed the power of it yet. And I'm surprised, like, because I would imagine it would take a small army of people to help kind of curate that and to police it. But you know, if you're a character on a show, you know, it's almost like you should have a burner account for yourself, and a character account just for your storylines, and like that storyline account should just be, you know, how the character is living day to day, and kind of have that, you know, that world be extended into your reality. Like if you tweet something as your character about someone, that should somehow be, you know, even with the help of the company, you know, I think that stuff could be used. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I was at the grocery store and guess who showed up? This, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden something broke out in the back. Hey, it's something you could do quickly just by a handheld phone. And it would probably be fun to see, like, you know, just insert wrestler A and B who's, you know, over on the roster, and just have like little things happen, you know, once in a while just from social media would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Seems like a missed opportunity of a tool that's at your fingertips almost to kind of further delve into that world and bring people in a little bit more.
Right.
And
I mean, just from the locker room.
Yeah, as opposed to pushing them away with more reality, pull them in with more of that story.
Yes, I agree. And like just for the fact that you're in that locker room, and that's a space that really hasn't been you know, hasn't been used that much. I mean, we see like little segments and all the BS throughout the years, but if you really think about what the locker room is, you're supposed to tell me that this small locker room confinement holds 40 superstars, all with these, you know, bloodthirsty rages against one another. And you're supposed to tell me that nothing's happening backstage.
Yeah.
You know, like let me tell you, there's no security guard that's going to stop the guys from getting to one another. So like, why not once in a while have somebody with a phone and like, oh my God, look at what just broke out. Like, you know, we're at catering and this happened, you know, just like not even a fight, but like an argument, you know, some kind of something. I don't know. I guess it would take a lot of work, but I think that would be a cool space to explore.
Yeah, no, and that actually does make sense, because like a lot of the times it's like the only time people ever have issues is during interviews. Somebody attacks them, and you know, and it's just like, seriously, so you wait until they're on an interview and then you attack them?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, no, that actually does make a lot of sense, because it's like stuff like that doesn't happen planned out; it just happens.
Right.
So it's like to have somebody with like a camera, like a little shaky cam, and oh my goodness, like this, you know, something's happening and nobody's doing commentary over it. You're just watching it. It makes it seem real.
And the cool thing would be like, you can't have somebody lurking in the shadows with a camera, like, because that's too predictable. It would have to be like, oh my God, I just walked into this. Like, you know, all of a sudden these two guys are talking shit and here they go.
Yeah.
You know, you couldn't have, like, I hate that, like, for someone, there's some creepy guy in the background filming this for no reason. We don't know if anything's going to pop off or not. But it would be like, you know, hey, I was coming to the building and these guys were talking shit to each other and I just decided to roll, like what happens in real life, right? If you see anything out there with what's going on in the news, like there's an encounter with police or with anybody, everybody's got their phones out. Do that stuff in wrestling. Like somebody's, not to equate what's going on in life with wrestling, but I'm just saying, like, if somebody was arguing backstage, people would probably do that for real.
Yeah. And I think what's missing is that raw authenticity. And when they're filming stuff, they're starting before the incident happens, which is not how things are recorded. 9 times out of 10, when someone starts recording something, they're 1 or 2 minutes into the altercation already. And you have that sense of authenticity. I think with the product today, going back to being like micromanaged, a lot of that authenticity is kind of gone because of how scripted things tend to feel.
Yep. And I was just going to say that the reason that they don't use it more is because they cannot micromanage it. They don't have that ability to. So that's a great point. You're right on top of it right there. Yep.
So also in 1997 to 2001 was a tremendous 4 years in your career. Does it sometimes surprise you that you made such a big mark in the world of wrestling in such a small amount of time in your stay in ECW?
It doesn't surprise me. It just makes me sad that it all kind of ended after that too, as far as me making a big mark. Although I did go on to work for the WWE on 2 separate occasions after that. Yeah. But what I always attribute this to was what happened in the world of pro wrestling in 2000, 2001. Both ECW and WCW went under and went to Vince McMahon, basically. Yeah. So basically what had happened was, and this ruined my career and it ruined a lot of other people's careers, was we were on a trajectory to go very high up in the business. And with this happening, it ruined it for a lot of people, because all of a sudden, where there were 3 companies, now there are 1, and the WWE is going to do what the WWE is going to do. And I think that, so many guys lost out on opportunities. There was, I've done the math before, there were 300 full-time jobs in between WCW, ECW, and WWE. And after 1 or 2 months, that all went away to just the WWE. So hundreds of jobs got, just disappeared.
A handful of those.
Yeah. So it was just survival of the fittest. And it really threw my whole, threw my career into a tailspin, because there was just nowhere to work if you weren't working for Vince, or if Vince didn't think highly of you or your character. You were shit out of luck, Yeah.
So, like, even during that time, like, during your stay in ECW, you had some great matches. Some of mine that, I watched recently, just to remind myself of the matches you had, were against Great Sasuke, which is a great match. Like, okay, so does he speak English? And if so, like, and if he didn't, like, how difficult was it to put the match together?
He didn't speak English, but it was actually really easy, because it's amazing when you wrestle people from Japan, like how universal pro wrestling is, or even people from that speak Spanish from Mexico and lucha style. It's amazing how universal the pro wrestling language is, because we all kind of adapt. Yeah. We speak broken language to each other, but we know, I shoot you off, duck clothesline, maybe something, So that's really how you do it. And but we just when you're pros like that, we just get it together, and it's cool though. It's quite amazing how pro wrestling actually does transpire languages, and if you're in it,
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry about that.
No, that's cool. It's cool. So like, even going further into that with just great matches that you did have, you also had matches against Jerry Lynn, Mike Whipwreck, Tommy Dreamer, and one of my favorite feuds that you were in was with Shane Douglas. So, like, tell me how that was working with Shane Douglas, and especially on the angle where you were going to retire him.
Yeah, it was just he was ready to leave to go to WCW, and it was just just a great opportunity to work with one of the, the great names of ECW, the almost like, one of the forefathers of ECW. And, unfortunately we didn't get to really see that angle all the way through because, he had some trouble with Paul and a lot of stuff was going on with monies owed to him at the time. But to this day, one of my favorite matches that I had with Shane was his last actually ever in ECW at the ECW arena. I think it was like 1998, if I'm not mistaken. And he was just great to work with, man. I wish we really had a full opportunity to do a, like a pay-per-view and like a really featured match. Cause we really never did. Like we had a tag match here or there on pay-per-view, but we never really had a, that big one-off match, which I would have loved because we got along great. We're still friends to this day.
Oh,
and I love working with him. We just had this give and take,
yeah.
I think it's amazing how great somebody can be, and for the fans not to know it because they may have been in WWE or WWF at the time, but to finally have like the cuffs taken off you as a character. Like you guys were both early 90s WWE guys. You guys were both under there and just shackled to your gimmick, shackled to being told what you can do. And then you get the cuffs taken off and you get to be put in a spot like that. And I think you just shock people when you see like, wait, this is that guy? Like,
right.
How come they didn't use him like this before? And it must have been so frustrating as a talent to be in WWF and more liberating as a talent to be in the ECW doing what you do.
I mean, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing how many people actually don't get the opportunities that they deserve. It's very, very sad because, you just do what you're told. I mean, this is no different than acting really, where you're just told what to do. You have no choice but to just, give in and, you have a script, this is your role. We all at times are very frustrated with the limitations that we're given. And a lot of people are surprised when we're finally given that right or that freedom to just go out there and be, whatever our creation, whatever we want to do. How it opens up. I mean, the freedom of working in a place like ECW was just here's what we were given the match. Like, we want 20 minutes from you. This guy's going over, go out there and create. That's not rocket science. That's just, right. I'll go out there and be the best wrestler I can be. And it's not that hard if you're a well-trained athlete and if you know what you're doing. And that's the thing where WWE has so many great wrestlers, men and women, that they just never get the opportunity. And unfortunately, we'll never see a lot of the potential of a lot of these great people because they, if everybody was allowed to work like Hunter, Hunter gets to do whatever he wants. So of course his shit could look great because he could say, I want to book this way and I want to do this stuff and I know what's going to get over. And the top guys could do that too. But if I was there for a long time, and if I had the right to do that, I could have came out smelling like roses too. It's just we're not allowed to. So it's like, and that's a way bigger issue that I don't even know how to tackle to this day. Of the do's and don'ts and the haves and have-nots, which comes down to politics, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah. The end of your run in WWF was special to me. Dre, do you mind if I tell the story real quick?
Oh, go ahead. Do you think?
So let's take a trip back to like summer '96. You guys were doing the loop down the Cape in Massachusetts.
Yep. I was working with Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Right.
My very first live event I ever went to was down the Cape and under the tent. You had Jake by your side. You were working Stone Cold. Summer '96. That was the very first live event I ever went to. Now, fast forward like 10 or 11 years, and I'm booked on a show for Big Time Wrestling down the Cape. Okay. You're booked in the main with John Walters.
Yep, I remember that.
Yep, and it just always stood out to me like, how crazy is this, man? Like, this guy was on a show, my very first show that I ever attended live, and now he's main eventing a show that I'm mid-carding on. So it was just like when things come full circle like that, it resonates with me. and it's something that always stuck out to me, as being special. This is why I always felt like a connection with you,
Right.
because of that. But it's just
Right on. Yeah, I mean those things. I mean that stuff, because that's just. I mean that's really cool. That's a great story, and it's funny. But to this day, you know who else remembers those matches? Steve does.
Right.
Because I went on his podcast. I've been on his podcast twice. Not his Broken Skull sessions, but like his old podcast when he used to do it, and he still talks about it. Were you at the show where we did like 10 or 12 vertical suplexes? Were you at that one?
I think that was the one down the Cape. I'm not sure. It was Cohasset, Massachusetts.
Okay. We had so much fun doing those, and like we were just, because in those shows too, we were just allowed to be ourselves. He wasn't stone cold yet. Right. He was starting to get the little bit of, so we were just out there having fun, and it just, it's just, I love to hear those stories, because it just shows like, how close we really all are to one another in this crazy business, and it's just like one little twist of fate, no pun intended, could kind of connects us all in this crazy business,
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome story.
And it's like another thing for me, because I mean, honestly, as a kid growing up, I just watched wrestling. I didn't get to go to a live show until like 20s. So
right.
It's good to be even in this position, being able just to interview you, because I watched you on TV. Like I've seen you on TV. I played you in video games. So it's like it's
right.
It's mind blowing. You know what I'm saying? Because you go into it as a fan, you're like, man, I would love to meet these people. It's like I met like wrestlers. Like I got this crazy story where I met Paige and Alicia Fox in the grocery store during a winter storm in Hartford when they canceled.
Oh wow!
Like, and it was so crazy. It was just like, who is this woman walking around with sweatpants on and a belly shirt in a winter storm? Like, what is going on here? Like, have you not been in Connecticut before? Like, where are you from?
All right. But, that's funny.
And it turned out to be Paige. But going back to a couple of interviews that I've seen of yours where people have asked you, how did you and Lance Storm, get paired up? And it was just like, well, you don't remember, but being paired up with Nicole Bass, do you remember that? And how did you feel about, being paired up with her?
I remember we were trying to do something similar to what China was. So she was almost like a rip-off of China, because she was very big and very, just an amazing physical specimen. And she was a sweetheart of a woman, actually. She was a wonderful woman. I actually became very good friends with her. I was down for it. I was always down for whatever, because Paul was always trying to just, find the next thing. And he was always trying to take shots. Like that was like some way it was a shot at WWE. Like you got China, we got Nicole Bass. Like she's bigger, even though Nicole, unfortunately, God bless her, and she passed away from a long time ago. But she was such a sweet girl and just didn't understand wrestling. She kind of got thrown into the wolves there, and I tried to help her as best I could. But her manager husband was kind of a dirtball, and he just, I don't know. It was a shady relationship with them and Paul. And I felt bad because she was really like out of place. She didn't like wrestling. She didn't know anything about it. She was kind of being told like, you're big, you have this special look, you're a bodybuilder. Let's get you out there and, try to make this work, where she really didn't have a feeling for it. It's like taking a non-wrestling fan and trying to explain the business to him in a couple of days. Yeah. Where people that don't watch it aren't going to get it. She had no idea, so she tried her best.
So was it just a situation where they just got her into ECW and was just like, okay, well, you're with Justin now, so I'll figure it out.
Yep, we'll figure it out as it goes along. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like, she wasn't ready, and nor did she understand, So we did the best we could to help her, and she was going to the ECW school, but then she was getting bullied a lot by, like, I don't want to say names, but people that were running the ECW school, prominent people in ECW, which were kind of mean to her because of the way she looked, stuff that wouldn't be acceptable today, put it that way, like jokes and stuff. You know, and she was very much a woman and very much took it to heart, and she was very emotional, and she'd cry to me at times, like not comfortable with doing certain things and being there. So I felt bad for her. She was a really sweet girl, you know.
Oh, well, also, not, we don't want to stick to ECW loop too much, but
Sure.
question. But you were actually booked in the first ever Stairway to Hell match against Tommy Dreamer,
Yep.
in 1999, guilty as charged. What was your mindset going into this first ever match in ECW, and how did you feel about how the match came out?
I liked the way the match came out. To me, it was just it was like my opportunity to do a ladder match, right? I always wanted to do a ladder match. I was always a fan of the Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon ladder matches, and I'd never done one myself. So it was just, to me, an opportunity to kind of, Shawn was like a hero to me. So just to kind of work in that respective way, like, oh wow, I get to use a ladder now. The only thing I didn't like was, even though we had to walk up to get to it was a Singapore cane with barbed wire wrapped around it. It was kind of like, you know what I mean? The whole match is to get this stupid Singapore cane with barbed wire, then what, you get to use it. So it was really anticlimactic as far as the match goes, like, but I was doing it with Dreamer and we made it work. I was happy with the way it came out. And believe it or not, that was the first ever ladder match I've ever done,
It was?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was just the first in ECW.
No, well, I mean, it was the first for ECW, but the first one for me ever. I'd never done a ladder match before of any kind. So, yeah.
So you must have been nervous going into it. I mean,
no, I was very nervous. Yes. Yeah. And we did that. And one thing we did that was cool that ended up being like on all the ECW promos and like the highlights for the openings of the shows and pay-per-views was Dreamer gave me the diamond cutter off the ladder, like off the double ladders.
Mm-hmm.
So I was real happy with that. But yeah, it was kind of nerve wracking to do it for the first time and not know how it's going to come out,
Well, I mean, you definitely did your thing in that matchup because, like, even looking at it, like I've seen it like months ago, multiple times on the network, but now since it's on,
yeah,
you can't even find it. Like they have
really,
it is terrible. Like you type in the name, you can't find matches. Like it's not great.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
This whole censorship is deleting history. I understand it to a point, but for some of it, it's like it erases very important parts of some people's lives, and it's.
Yeah, and it was the WWE network, for one, was good for everybody in the business because it showed new fans our work. I understand that people that watch DCW are probably no longer watching wrestling, but the network at the time offered my body of work to new fans, which then could rediscover, that era. So now without that being there, it really kind of sucks. So yeah, I wasn't aware that it was that bad.
Yeah, like they say that they're going to upload the full library by the summer, but
you don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it happening. Like even now, it's like they got a couple of ECW specials, but they don't have the full library of ECW television on there.
Really?
Like,
oh wow.
Like WCW stuff on there yet? Like Sean, you've been on the new app, right? I mean,
yeah, it's very bare bones. It's very bare bones right now. I mean, like you said, they're probably just working out some things on trying. I mean, it's a lot of content to get uploaded onto a platform, so it's probably a lot of work. But I mean, I'm hopeful that that'll be restored because you need to see where you come from in order to know where you're going. And I think even a lot of the people who are just starting in the business today, it's so important to be able to go back and watch some of those matches and footage that let's face it, like VHSs are probably lost and long gone. Some people have them, some people don't. CDs are starting. The digital world is starting to be what we have to utilize. And for younger athletes and guys and girls who are starting today, it's so important to be able to go back and learn your roots and to see that history, so you can take that and learn from it and try to implement it in what you're doing today.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Like, and also, I also looked at I said this before, that I looked at a couple of your interviews, and I looked at a couple of other wrestlers' interviews from ECW, and we always seen these, interviews and documentaries that ECW locker room has been depicted in two different ways. A place where everyone worked together to help create, long-lasting moments in wrestling, and also a place where sometimes shady things have happened. In the locker room, to you, how did you feel it really was, in your eyes, with the creativity and freedom mixed with a little bit of shady dealing?
I think I was on the right side of the coin on this, so I have maybe a skewed perspective, but I thought it was great. I really did. I had a great time. I never had anybody tell me anything. Like, there was no, even Heyman was like, he wasn't really much of an authority figure. We all kind of knew what we had to do. We didn't have to be policed very much. We knew what we had to do. We were told by Paul, and then if it wasn't Paul, it was Tommy Dreamer. Those were the people in charge. But other than that, there was nobody else in charge. So we had to kind of take responsibility for our own stuff. And it would, and by doing that, you would get rewarded with how good your shit came out on TV. So if you gave 110%, you were going to get that return. So to me, I just saw it as just complete freedom, to do what I thought was best for myself and also ECW. Like, you also couldn't just go into free reign. Like I never questioned, any decisions of, who's going over, who's not. Paulie would say that, this one's going over. I'd say, okay. But 9 times out of 10, we could make it work to everyone's benefit. And and that's how it was. I mean, it was really, in my experience, the most non-confrontational, just cool environment ever. Like, I don't recall, and I was there the whole time. I wasn't like fucked up or anything. I was like laser focused, and I don't remember there being a lot of issues at all. So because we just all wanted the best product.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think it speaks to the caliber of athlete. Like we were saying, it didn't really matter who was going over. When you have two people who have a passion and have chemistry, it doesn't matter who's winning or losing, because you're both going to come out of that having benefited from it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of having that chemistry and that rapport with each other, and knowing that you're there to elevate each other and not to, hey, I'm going over on you.
Yep.
I think that mindset can get a little confusing for some people, but that's when you have the best matches, man. Is when you're both going out there trying to elevate each other.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agreed. Yeah.
So this is a gaming channel, wrestling video games. So we're going to get into a little bit of the wrestling video games, which you have been in some. In your career, you've been featured in video games such as ECW, Hardcore Revolution, Anarchy Rules, WWE Raw. What are your memories about the process of being implemented in these video games? And how was it for you to, when you first found out, oh, I'm going to be in a video game, be a video game character?
I always thought it was fascinating. I remember even earlier than ECW, for a lot of the in your house video games that the WWF put out, Dr. Tom Pritchard and myself, we actually did a lot of the green screen motion capture for it. And I actually have pictures somewhere in my house of me doing it for the Acclaimed video games.
Yes.
Where we would literally wear the whatever the color thing,
the green,
where you're
green suit.
the suit, and I was with Bret Hart in one of them where he's in some contraption, and we're just helping him out, and we're actually doing the moves for the game. So I've been involved in that stuff for a long time. So it was pretty cool, really cool.
So, even when being put in finally being your own character in ECW. How was that? How was
it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. I can't lie. But it was, at the same time, it was just being that the game there were such, I guess the ECW games were so bad, in my opinion.
Hold on. Before we even go,
an upset of now.
I still have them to this day and play them. I enjoy.
Okay.
I mean, some people don't like the controls, but this was in the 90s.
It's just a different formula. Yeah.
I enjoyed the game, to be honest. I like it. And Anarchy Rules was better, because it had a better.
I thought so too.
Yeah,
and I was on the cover, so that helps. Yeah.
It wasn't as pick up and play friendly as the ones today are, just because of the inputs that you had to learn. But
there was a lot of there was, for me, like picking up a game, and I play video games all the time right now, even today. To this day, I love video games. So for me, it's like it just took a lot of like way too much, like left left A, B, C, D, like to do like a hip toss or something. So it was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
But no, it was really cool to be in that. It was really cool to be in that. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and also you're being featured in the upcoming wrestling game, The Wrestling Code.
Yes, I'm very excited for that.
Yeah. So how did that come to take place, and how do you feel about in the year 2021 you're still being featured in video games?
That's crazy. That is crazy. I'm 47 years old, man, and I don't know. I'm blessed. I just want to. I don't know. I just wish I could do more for the business. I wish there was more. This pandemic has really slowed everyone down. I just wish there was more out there for me to still do, because I want to do so much more. I guess having this year and a half off of wrestling, in some ways, I wish I could just still be more connected to it, because, once you sit back and you're away from the game, it's like you realize how much you truly miss it. Maybe not so much from an in-ring perspective, but I'm hard pressed to kind of I would challenge you to find a bunch of people that have the knowledge that I have, being that and someone else said this to me too. I come from a unique point of a generation where I came up, or Jericho said this in Austin's podcast, and I agreed with him, because we come from the same kind of thing. I came up in '92 from the Hearts in Calgary, so I'm still a little bit of that old school kayfabe. Went to the WWE in '95, ECW in the late '90s, the Attitude Era, all that, and so how many people get to like still be old school territory days and with the new school, and you know what I mean, like has all these kind of experiences where there's a lot of guys that have that kind of full body of work that has lasted through all these times in the business. It's like a unique perspective. So I'd love to work for somebody in pro wrestling. I feel like time's ticking, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. So I would just love to like get this whole COVID thing out of the way and just go back to work.
And I mean that to just to go on what you were saying, you being a part of so many eras in wrestling and still holding name value to this day, even without wrestling in
right
here, you know what I'm saying? So it's like when you were approached with the prospect of being in this game, like how did you feel about that?
Oh, I was flattered. I was honored. It was really cool. I didn't expect, you get to a certain point in your career where you stop expecting that kind of stuff to happen. And, so I was honored, I couldn't believe it. So, and I think it's going to be cool when it finally comes out. It's going to be good to see all the different kind of names, and then, they're really going indie friendly on this one, which I think is going to be really cool,
And now we're moving into a different direction in character growth in wrestling. And today, who do you think has the best growth and really stepped into their own in the current product of wrestling? And not just, WWE, but also, AEW or even like Ring of Honor.
I mean, the only one I could really speak of, because I've watched every single show, because I do a podcast for Vince Russo on AEW Dynamite. I've watched literally every Dynamite that's come out. So I could just speak on AEW, would be MJF and Darby Allin. Two guys that I've seen just really grow. I mean, I think MJF, if done correctly and properly, could be, and he's so young. I think he's 24 or 25. I think he's future legacy player. If he doesn't get hurt and if he has a good attitude and, does everything he's got to do. I think he's one of those guys. And Darby Allin, even though for me, he's a little small, but he just has so much of a presence, and kids love him. The gimmick is over. I really like him as well. So to me, those are two guys I would want on my team, definitely for the future.
Yeah, because people love to hate MJF, and I haven't got to see him wrestle live, but I got to see Darby Allin wrestle live from
Yeah.
wrestling. I always go
Yep.
to the Waterbury shows all the time,
Yep.
but I
Yep.
haven't seen a show from them in a while. But yeah, man, like fans are really behind Darby Allin. I think just with him, the one thing that I would like to see is just more character development on the mic. I always
Yeah.
seems like even when he got to AEW, they gave him the ball. He got the championship, but it's like pairing him with Sting is cool. It definitely gives him like a rub, like he's an important person because Sting.
Right.
But there has to be a point where he's just on his own, and that's the
Right.
one thing that I want to see, especially with MJF too. I mean, it's great to see him in a group, but I just want to see him on his own and really, put his career on his own shoulders and just say, I'm going to do this, without Wardlow. Just.
I agree. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
That little transition period where you have that rub, to elevate them to that next level where they can stand on their own 2 feet. So I think there's good things in the future for both those guys.
Oh, definitely, big time.
Yeah.
And so we're going, we're heading towards the end of the podcast, which once again I definitely appreciate you.
Oh, thank you guys, man. That's my pleasure, dude.
What's your advice for someone trying to get into the world of pro wrestling?
Don't. No, I'm kidding.
He was gonna say that.
No, it's a joke. Just if you want to get into pro wrestling, just understand that it's probably going to be a very difficult, painstaking ride. You're probably going to lose your girlfriend. Your family's going to get mad at you, and you're going to go through some things that you probably never thought or imagined you'd go through. But if you really love it and you're passionate about it, then I always say go for it, because I had no idea what I didn't have the foresight of, I was a mark when I went to Calgary. I literally showed up to Calgary blindsided. I came from Waterbury, Connecticut in 1992. I got a plane ticket to Calgary. I got picked up by somebody I didn't know in Calgary. And then they took me to where I'm going to be staying, which was above a strip club in some small town outside of Calgary. And I was like, this is where I'm staying. And literally, like, you could hear the music going on downstairs. And I'm like 18 years old. I'm like a kid. It's not like this is like, woo. This is like, I'm frightened, and here you are, welcome to pro wrestling. And then I had to, learn, and it's just get ready for everything, man. But if you truly love it, and if you have good people, my biggest thing is, if you want to get into wrestling, find the best school. That's what I would say. Find somebody that is trustworthy, do your homework, because now you have like all this information out there. Find the best school you can, somebody that's going to work with you and really give you the best direction. Because in my generation, I literally had a phone number, an address, and a plane ticket. And I didn't know jack shit about anything. And I found out along the way, which was extremely scary. And I would have never done it again if I knew what it was going to be. Let me tell you that. That's a book in itself. I want to tell that story someday, which I've never told to anyone. But just be very careful and find yourself a really trusted school. That would be the best advice I can give someone that really truly loves it. But you have to be dedicated and give everything you got and expect nothing in return. It takes a while,
And with us both being Connecticut natives, I have to ask, who is your football team, your basketball team, and your baseball team?
All right. I'm going to get a little bit of heat, but that's okay. Boston Celtics basketball, New York Yankees baseball, and I'm going to be a poser, but I don't mind saying it, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh.
Only because I love, for football, I don't have a team. I always love to watch like what the stories are. Like, I like to pick a team and kind of like, what's the narrative on certain teams. And I saw Patrick Mahomes coming out, and I was like, this kid is going to be fire. So for a couple of years now, I've followed the Chiefs, and I really enjoy watching them play football. So, but the Celtics are like, I'm diehard since the 80s with the Celtics and the Yankees, childhood stuff. But I didn't like the Jets. I didn't like the Giants, and I certainly didn't like the Patriots. So, yeah. So there you go.
Listen, growing up in Connecticut, I couldn't stand the Patriots.
Can't stand it.
I'm Broncos, like in and
Yeah,
out. Like,
yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
you know, so it's like growing up in Connecticut and people like, you're a Broncos fan. I'm like,
It's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the old Von Miller on you, don't you?
Yeah, I
That's
got my
right.
own custom jerseys. I don't play.
Nice. That's it. That's good. That's good. Very good.
But yeah, so once again, thank you for your
Oh,
time.
thank you, man.
I definitely appreciate it, man. And yes, any plugs, social media?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at PJ Polacco and on Instagram at PJ Polacco. And of course, ProWrestlingTees.com/Just Incredible. I have like 20 t-shirts available. So go check it out. That's it.
All right. Well, once again, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
This is the Let's Talk podcast. And we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Later.
Thank you. Yep.